When you're breaking down the divine feminine and divine masculine on a second by second level, on a second by second basis, you want to know which way and which pole is each moment pointing to. There's going to be times when you're going to have to receive. That's the divine feminine. There's going to be times when you're going to have to produce. You're going to have to give, like a plus minus charge. So when you're charged, when you give, again, that's the divine masculine. When you project. So it's like giving, receiving, push, pull. But second by second, you're being presented with opportunities that will require either a push or pull. One of two answers will be right in terms of multiple choice. So if it were a test, just getting one wrong is like a fail. Not ultimately in life, but just in that sliver of a scenario, however many nanoseconds was wrapped up in that, it was a misfire. So the people want to know too, well, how? How do we know from which moment? And how do we find out without necessarily having to go to somebody to find out what should I do in each moment, each second? I don't want to be like a babe. I want to be mature. I want to be able to grow, and I want to be able to get the information myself, to access the intuition for myself. I want to know myself. Here's what you need to know then. That a child shall lead them. What child? Where's this child? Who is this child? You will find this child wrapped in swaddling clothes and laying in a manger. What does this mean for your life on a daily application, second by second basis? What it means is that the parts of us that are swaddled, that are the most protected, that are the most guarded, that's our child. So if someone is a speaker, but deep down inside, they're a singer, but it's a side of them that they never show, and it becomes or is the most passionate part of themselves, then that is the child. The songster, the songstress is the child. You'll find it wrapped in swaddling clothes. The parts of you that are wrapped up, that are swaddled, that are kept close to your heart, the parts of you that you don't really share with others, that is your child. That is your child self. This child is going to lead the divine masculine and the divine feminine within the individual human unit, second by second basis. Because the child is the perfect reproduction and the result of both the divine masculine and the divine feminine in each moment, because the child requires both the male and the female to be physically produced. So in any scenario, whether it be positive or negative, a push or a pull, a plus or a minus, a yes or a no, you will always win if you are the child, because the child is the most powerful. The child is the golden ray. The inner child, the part of you that's protected, the innocent part, the part that still believes in everything, the part that still believes that things will get better, the part of you that still believes in a better tomorrow, believes in a better today, the part of you that still remains optimistic when you're going through wild stuff in your life that will push you into negativity. You still hold on. Even if you don't believe in the positivity, you still cling on to the positivity like a mantra until you can get your vibration to match your statement. This is childlike. And it is so powerful to look at life like a researcher, like an experimenter. You're trying this. If this doesn't work, you try that. If this doesn't work, children never seem to run out of ideas and run out of different methods to try things. The moment we start to grow old, not mature, the moment we start to grow old is when we start running out of creativity. When we begin to abandon our creativity, we immediately age. Immediately age. Because the creative center is the life force, and the life force has to by nature be the most youthful while at the same time, for wisdom's sake, it is the most ancient. It is the Alpha and Omega, deep down in your core. Who you are without your titles, who you are without your job, who you are without your responsibilities to your family, to your friends, to your coworkers. Who you are with nothing is who the child in you is. How you originally started, when you were born, your disposition, when you were a little baby. How was your gaze? How was your glare, your stare? How was your countenance? How was your nature? However you are leading up to age 7 is who you are, essentially, because these are the child years, the informative years. 1 through 7, the alpha state. If life is but a dream, then we're still in years 1 through 7, as long as we're on the 3D plane, because this is more of the childlike property when it's measured up against higher realms and higher beings and higher thought forms, etc. This is the most childlike stage, but it is also the most ancient stage, because the flesh is susceptible to decadence and decay. It expires. It has a shelf life. Now, we can dig into the Christos oil later that I've seen from other channels, and the research was founded by quite a few scientists and doctors, etc., in regards to the Christos oil, which is the natural way to cheat death. But we would have to get into that in a separate video. But however, if you step into the divine child as a perpetual state, this Christos oil will begin to flow regardless. And you'll find yourself at the very least aging a lot slower, feeling a lot more energy, feeling a lot more youthful, a lot more exuberant. But that ancient, tempered side of you is so much more patient than the childish part of you, so much more outspoken than the timid, childish part of you. Yet the child is not the one with the ego who rushes in all the time. The child, as an archetype, is usually represented on the right-hand path by focus, and on the left-hand path by mischievousness, being a trickster. Both of these poles of the child are necessary to protect the most sacred parts of yourself from those who seek to take advantage of you. You would have to play tricks sometimes like a child to get yourself out of a net, especially if you're up against a bigger, more formidable foe, a supervisor, a manager, somebody who you don't need them, but they're cutting the check. So you would rather not have any friction with them. So you got to know when to be a child then. And this doesn't mean to not be mature, to be a doormat, to be a pushover. No, you have to know when to go into receptive mode and active mode at the same time. And it's typically more natural for a child to do this than it is for an adult who's been trained out of their power by social conditioning. Where will you find the child again? Wrapped in swaddling clothes, laying in a manger, in a barn, inside of the animal nature, not outside of the animal nature. No, this animal nature is housed. It's housed within all of the animalistic parts of yourself. It's inside of the barn, wrapped in swaddling clothes. It's found in the manger. That's under a roof. Even though it's outside, even though there was no room for them in the inn, there was still shelter in the barn, in the stable. It just wasn't the type of shelter that the rest of society was attending that night. The people with the status and the riches and the wealth and the popularity, they made it in the end. There was no room for your child, for the innocent part of you. There's no room for that in Hollywood. So how do you transmute life that seems to be a tale of bricks, and Pharaoh's just whipping your back out, whipping the skin off of you to produce twice as many bricks with only half as many resources. How do you transmute that? The child is ultimately a master at resourcefulness. If this child only has 2 toys, it'll play with 2 toys until it gets 3, and it'll find a million ways to play with 2. That is resourcefulness. To be able to be resourceful. And ultimately, when all else fails, which is really the go-to in the first place, start making believe and really get lost in those fantasies. Because if you can hold on to your fantasy long enough and commit real action and real dedication to it, that valley of dry bones those bones are going to start to rattle and start to connect, and they're going to cover up with muscles and sinews and tendons and skin, and it's going to stand up as a living, breathing army. But right now it's dry, but life can't enter those bones, Ezekiel. But you have to make believe that the dead are still living if you want what seems to be dead in your life to be yet alive, like your goals, like your purpose before you decided to be responsible, before life happened to you. How do you get back there? With the responsibilities that you deal with on the day-to-day, go within, all the way within, all the way to your child within yourself, all the way to that innocent, hopeful part. Try to go back, try to remember a time before the problems, and you'll get a sense of the identity of your own inner child. So that's enough of the children's tales for now. Stay tuned for more Vantablack Chats. Peace.